here, welcome back to my channel. Today's video might be in two parts because my phone is out of charge, so I feel like recording now, but I'll need to charge it and I have a class later, so God knows when I'll record the rest of the video. But if you see that the video is recorded in two parts, as in I'm wearing something else later, the vibe has shifted. That's the reason why. But today we're going to be talking about Sade Sati, 7 years of Shani, Saturn period of despair and disaster. I'm kidding. No, there's a lot of bad rep and a lot of scariness around Shani. Um, I do not want to say it's not valid because it is valid. Shani does really come around. When I say Shani, it means Saturn. Shani does really come around and uproot your whole world, but also he does it for your soul's growth and evolution, for your personal good. But also it can be a difficult time period to go through. So we're going to talk about what you can expect and what is certain, what is not certain during the 7.5 years of Shani transiting. What is Sade Sati? What is this time period that everyone talks about, everyone dreads, especially in India? Anyone who's heard of the term 7.5 years of Shani, anyone who's heard of the term Sade Sati is always a little spooked, always knows that, okay, this is a time period in everyone's life where things are going to hit the roof, like things are going to go crazy, things are going to kind of, sort of, yes. I mean, while that is true, there is also like a good reason why you should be excited or celebrate it. I wouldn't say celebrate, but like, I don't know, not feel afraid, I guess, because anyway, Saturn is going to come around and make you feel less afraid. So this 7.5 year period of Shani basically means that Saturn's transit is crossing your 12th house from your natal moon and your house of the natal moon and the house right after your natal moon. So the 12th house, the first house, and the second house. Saturn is a slow moving planet. Saturn takes its own time to transit a sign. Saturn takes 2.5 years to move through a sign. So 2.5 years in the 12th house from the moon, 2.5 years in the house of the moon, 2.5 years in the house after the moon. So that's totally 7.5 years. So what happens basically? Saturn is a disciplinarian. I've talked about Saturn in my early videos. Saturn is a planet that basically is here to deliver your karma to you, but that doesn't need to always necessarily sound really scary. Sometimes, yes, I mean, we are not aware of our karmas. Not all of us know what's in store for us, what we've done in our previous lifetimes, and what fruit of what action is, being ripened in this lifetime. We have no idea. I can tell you a few things that you can expect during the 7.5 year Shani period. Like I said, and like a lot of astrologers and people in general say, it's not always good, it's not always bad. But it's nothing to fear, because that is essentially one thing that Saturn will elevate from you, will take away fear, and he will make you a stronger person and make you someone who's more adept at facing your worst fears. So essentially, the only way outside, I mean, the only way out of fear is through fear. The only way out is through with a lot of things. So basically, in order to overcome a lot of things you're afraid of, you have to go through them. So basically, these 7.5 years, Saturn puts you through things you're dreading, your worst fears, your shadow self, things that you have suppressed, things that you have not been able to face growing up. A lot of things that you've spent time running away from will come back to you and be like, hey, what's up? Like, I'm going to be here now. What are you going to do about it? And Saturn basically gives you that push comes to shove sort of moment, because you have no choice but to deal with the things that you've been running away from. What can you expect during the first quadrant, second, and the third of this 7.5 year time period? Now, before I get into what you can expect during the first 2.5 years, second 2.5 years, and third 2.5 years, I would want to say that, as terrifying it may be, you always come out of a Saturn period stronger. You always come out of it with a lot of spiritual learning. You always come out of it with a lot of deeper understanding of yourself and the meaning of life, and deeper understanding of your soul's purpose. And if not anything else, it just allows you and your being to have a clean slate, to get rid of things that were supposed to be discarded, whether that's your bad karma, whether that's things that have been holding you back in your life. Shani gives you a lot of resilience, and it gives you that go-getting attitude, and it gives you that ability to pursue things that you want to pursue. So yeah, a lot of people's careers really take off. Like, their personal life may be like in shambles, but their career really takes off during 7.5 years of Sade Sati. So yeah, like 7.5 years, Sade Sati, they mean the same thing. So yeah, I mean, you can expect a lot of growth, you can expect a lot of, evolution, you can expect a lot of good things. Like everything that is taken away from you will be given to you tenfold in another form or even in the same form. There's this notion that everything that you lose during the initial phase of Sade Sati, you gain back in the final phase or after Sade Sati ends. So basically, that's like, okay, I'll take this away from you, learn how to live your life without it, and then because you know how to live without it and you're detached from it, that's when you will get it. If you still want it, you can keep it then. Kind of, sort of, maybe like that. So, yeah, having said that, let me go into the first quadrant of 7.5 years of this Saturn period. Now, the first 2.5 years, since Saturn is transiting the 12th house from the natal moon. 12th house represents a lot of loss, separation, isolation. So, what can happen, from the POV of your moon chart basically is you could find yourself in a position where you are, I don't know, like your closest support system or your friends are far away from you. Maybe you're in a different country altogether, or maybe there are random fights happening that are not in your control and your friends are like dropping like hot potatoes. All your close people are no longer around you, or everyone who's close to you has suddenly moved away to a different country. That really happens. There's a sense of isolation and loneliness that takes over because it is the 12th house from the moon. So there's the theme of isolation in the 12th house is really strong, and Shani really makes you learn lessons of that house. So why we're taking the moon chart into consideration here? Because a lot of the turmoil that Saturn gives has to do a lot with emotional safety, comfort, and emotional disruption and unrest. So a lot of the issues that Saturn makes us face, if there were issues and you didn't care about them emotionally, they didn't affect you, they wouldn't be necessarily issues. So these issues do affect you on an emotional level more than anything else because Saturn is in such close proximity to the moon. So the 12th house, you can see a lot of themes of loss, separation, having to deal with the, closest comfort zones or closest relationships to you being a little far away from you or losing them, like having a significant breakup or something, where someone who was your ride or die, that's a truck, someone who was your ride or die, someone you thought was, your go-to person will or might be suddenly taken away from you, and you have no choice but to endure the separation. You have no choice but to face it, and it can be unbearable, especially if yeah, it can be unbearable. Loss is always unbearable, separation always is unbearable, breakups are hard, but not, like I said, not necessarily breakups can be coupled with isolation from your friends. So what happens in this first 2.5 year period? You're really faced with loneliness and all of your inner demons and all of your basically things that you've hidden away in deep corners of your subconscious. Your subconscious mind is a very activated zone in the 12th house, represents your subconscious mind. So your 12th house gets very activated by Saturn. So everything that you've pushed away into your subconscious, all your subconscious patterns, wiring, all that's going to come to the surface. Everything that you've suppressed over the years, everything that you've hidden away in your subconscious, all your traumas, pains, fears, your attachment styles, maybe, I don't know, everything is going to come to the surface or might come to the surface. So you might be blessed enough to be aware of what's coming to the surface, or sometimes people go through this period with no idea what's hitting them. It helps to be psychologically aware, and I wouldn't say get therapy. I mean, you can get therapy, but do a lot of self-reflection, reading, find out what your attachment style is, find out what traumas you're holding. A lot of the times our subconscious has like patterns and wiring that we're not even consciously aware of. Like we might be subconsciously seeking something constantly. Our conscious minds are not really aware of that. So it helps to maybe become aware of things that are patterns in your life. Why do you do certain things a certain way? Why do you feel certain ways about certain people? What triggers you and why does it trigger you? It helps to introspect and understand yourself more, and understand deeper triggers, understand what makes you sad, happy, what makes you feel weak, what makes you feel afraid, and how would you overcome these fears, overcome these weaknesses. Those are themes that 12th house from the moon, Saturn, really pushes you to learn. It's not like, oh, they'll be revealed to you in a very sunny manner. No, unfortunately, I'm actually undergoing my first year of Sade Sati, and it hit like a truck. It hits like a truck. You think that you can escape it, you think you can pray, you can like do things. You can sage your room, you can meditate it away, you think you can handle it, you think it's gonna be fine, you keep feeling scared, okay, what will happen, and then I was very aware that Sade Sati is coming. I always knew what it meant, but I didn't really. It's very unexpected. I didn't really think it would like hit areas and corners of my psyche and myself. That basically I didn't really know that I was going to be affected in such and such areas of my life, and my relationship to myself would be tested so much, and there would be so much of internal turmoil that came to the surface. I struggled a lot with a lot of suppressed emotions coming to the surface, a lot of years worth of trauma suddenly being felt in my body and my system, and acting out a character because there's so much trauma that you cannot really like embody your conscious, like, I don't know, I keep, what is the word, your higher self kind of takes a back seat. And for me, my higher self like took a back seat, and she was like, okay, go through it, like just go through it. I'm not gonna help you. And I was like, but I, like, your super ego kind of sort of malfunctions, because there are all these triggers, all these pains, and all these impulses. I mean, that was the case for me. I learned about my attachment style for the first time. I learned about how much that impacts my life. I learned about things that have affected me in my growing years that I never really thought really affected me, or I never thought that, oh wow, I had no idea that that was like an imprint in my subconscious. It's a huge warehouse of like everything that you've been through in this lifetime and beyond. So it was interesting. It is interesting from a space of being aware, and from a space of, feeling safe and being reflective and being in wisdom and knowledge, and allowing your higher self to be a little active from that space. It's like, wow, like there's a lot of work happening here. Shani is really preparing you to get rid of all of the. It's like a cleanse, in a way. It's like everything that you've been housing in your body and being in your subconscious, it's like being released. It's coming to the surface, and you can only learn how to discard it because it has nowhere else to go. So it is very difficult to face those things. It's like, imagine like something happening in the present, something unpleasant happening in the present itself is a lot, right? It is a lot. It's still, I mean, yes, we can glorify pain, we can glorify like, okay, this will make me stronger, yes, blah blah blah. But imagine every bad thing you've ever been through that you've sort of dealt with already, and it's become a part of your wiring, and it's caused you to think and feel a certain way, and it's, contributed to how you draw your boundaries, etc., etc. All of that, the years worth of negative instances are the like collective stored energy of that. You're going to face that, and that is very challenging. And I don't mean to, again, I don't mean to scare you, um, but then again, it's just you, right? It's just basically facing yourself, facing parts of you that you've struggled to accept, or facing parts of you that you don't know what to do with. So it's very life changing. It is life changing. It helps to know that you're being put through this for a reason. There's a higher purpose to all of this, and it helps to know that, okay, all of this is happening for a reason. But the way the timelines add up is crazy. Like, it's, yeah. So for me as well, like, since Shani's in the Saturn's in the 12th house from the moon, this year all my friends left, to all my close friends, like my close knit friends, like my support system group friends, um, all of them went to different parts of the world, away from me. Some of them stopped talking to me. I fell out with a couple of them. There was a lot of, themes of, I want to share how I'm feeling with people who are close to me, but where are they? And also, there was a lot of loss, there was a lot of turmoil. And I hate saying this, but okay, hate is a strong word. I really dislike the saying, there's light at the end of the tunnel, or everything that you've lost will come back in another form. Because honestly, yes, energy takes different forms, love takes different forms. What you need can be fulfilled, but the sole purpose of people that you pour into and love, uh, the sole purpose of that is not to get something that you need, or to get an energetic requirement, or to fill a certain void. So it's not like, oh, okay, cool, I lost it in this way, but I'm going to get it from somewhere else. I get it that loss is loss. And yeah, there could be something better tomorrow, but you're still losing something that held a lot of significance to you today. So it's one way to think optimistically, thinking that, hey, whatever I've lost will come back to me in another form. But I'm someone who's like, you know what, I'm fine with the form I have right now. I just want that back, kind of thing. With be it my friendships, my childhood friendships, or be it someone I really love, or be it a part of life that I didn't think I had to compromise on, but I have to. Um, so yeah, it's difficult. It is difficult. But know that everything happens for your greater good. And as much as it sucks right now, there'll be a version of you in the future that has dealt with everything that you are going through right now and is at peace with everything that has transpired and is at peace with even the things you're like, no, but how am I gonna get over this? Or how does that make sense? Like everything that I know that I'm feeling right now, that I'm thinking about, that's like, this is so hard. There's no way that I'm gonna come out of this like a stronger, better person, and there's no way. I don't see myself feeling like good about this in the future. There's no way I see myself being healed from this in the future. That is a strong feeling, and we've all had those feelings before, and they can be very pronounced. Basically, these are things that we are struggling to let go, struggling to have, you know, isolation from, like struggling to have distance from and isolate ourselves. These are things that are difficult to let go. And what does Saturn make us go through? Things that are difficult to do, things that aren't easy. So yes, I can tell you, as much as it's important to be optimistic and that everything happens for the greater good, and you get better than you have now, and you deserve more, and more will come to you. Know that it's okay to keep hope, that more might come back in the same forms that you had to release, and more might come back in those forms in a more enhanced way as well. It's okay to hope that, okay, I'll get back the same friends, we'd have evolved and we'll be okay, in the future. Basically, things like that. It's okay. Because it just doesn't make sense. Like, I had childhood friends, I lost them, but I got better friends. That doesn't make sense with friendships or significant partnerships, or people who are your ride or die at some point. But yeah, you can expect some sort of loss, and doesn't have to be like permanent loss. It can be loss. It can be loss that feels real. You don't know whether it's permanently gone or it'll come back in some form. You do not know. And that's the thing, that's the scary part you have to face, that you don't know. But all you can do is heal enough from that loss, and heal from incidents that showed you parts of yourself that you've not accepted, and learn how to accept them, learn how to embrace them, and learn how to overcome your traumas and fears. And what you can do is work on yourself and prepare yourself for the blessings that are waiting for you, because this loss is only teaching you that, hey, you need to go through this in order to prepare for what you have asked for, or what you deserve, or the better that's going to come in the future. So being committed to working on yourself, being committed to introspection, being committed to spiritual growth, being committed to inner work, shadow work, healing your inner demons, your inner child. All of these might be huge themes of the first 2 years of Sade Sati. And yeah, my heart goes out to people going through this phase. It could be easy for some people. It could be like, oh, I had an amazing job and I lost it, but I'm still happy. Like, I still have like things to fall back on. You never know the degree and the intensity to which one might experience Sari Sati. It also depends on other factors in the chart. But overall, this is a theme of the first 2 years, because it's the 12th house from the moon. Now, the house of the moon is when things get a little bit more intense, is what people say, because Shani is crossing right on top of the moon. Saturn is transiting the house of the moon itself. So now, moon is nourishment, emotional security, stability, safety, and Saturn is the bearer of all bad news in the world. No, Saturn is a disciplinarian. Saturn is ruthless, and like, not ruthless, but Saturn takes no ish. Saturn's like, hey, find your duty, fulfill it, do it. Moon's mushiness is not going to, fool Saturn. Saturn's still going to be like, yeah, you have to go through what you have to go through. So this can be an even more emotionally testing period, but not with respect to loss and like isolation. The themes of self-development continues, because this is the first house, the house of our ascendant from the moon chart. Basically, the first house is the house where our sense of self is born, and our ability to become somebody and have an identity and have that be a righteous, good, moral morale filled with moral conduct, kind of identity, basically who we choose to be in the world, the structure of the personality that we create, the person we choose to be. So all of this is basically the first house, our sense of self, our jiva, our um, first house represents our outward shining personality and our aura, our energy, right? So Saturn coming here now, this now when it transits the 12th house, it kind of prepares us to look inward a little bit, because you're like, okay, I have nowhere else to look to, I have no one else to look to, I have to look at myself, I have to like introspect, I have to get to know myself. Now you have uprooted, like it's like, you know, you've cleaned a closet and all of the closet's clothes are on your bed, and they're all like scattered, and there are clothes you have to give away, there are clothes you have to keep, there are clothes you have to get altered. You have to rearrange your whole closet. So now Saturn passing through the moon's house is basically further introspection. Okay, now I've dealt with all my traumas, and so much of my identity and who I was so connected to these traumas and these trauma patterns and these wirings. Now I'm telling all of this from a psychological perspective alone. Occurrences in life, like what exactly happens, are not things that I can say definitively, because it depends on chart to chart, it depends on a lot of predictive astrology. Let's not even go there, but I'm just telling you what you can expect emotionally, psychologically, and like here and there incidents, like, you know, like I said, losing people, things like that, getting isolated, feeling lonely. These are themes that can be very common. um, so yeah, you are restructuring your sense of self because they're no longer connected to those traumas, and you see, and this is what's so beautiful about Sade Sati. It's like a reset. It's like your whole life that you've lived for all these years, it's getting reset, and there's like this whole um, new version of you that's going to emerge, and that version of you is going to take you to the next phase of your life. Everything that you need to be, everything that you want for yourself is going to be accepted through a new energy, a new lens. So that's beautiful. So your sense of self is going to be tested in during the second 2.5 years. Themes that, you know, reinforce this looking inward and push you to look more inward and push you to reconstruct your inner world and your sense of self and your strength, and cultivate your strength and find grounding for your strength in like the right things that will help those things happen. Like, I don't know, like a significant demotion in your job, or something humiliating, or something. I'm not saying that these are things that will happen, but incidents that trigger growth can still be expected even during this time. And aside from that, general mental turmoil, because it's like, so much is being uprooted. I don't even know. It's like walking into the room full of clothes and you're just like, I don't know where I can rest, I don't know where to sleep, because there are clothes everywhere. Basically that. So people say that this is the most difficult time period, because like there's still that pain and processing of all the loss that happened during the first 2 years, and there's still that sense of emptiness from all that loss, maybe. And then on top of that, you have to restructure yourself. So it's like hard. It's like I'm almost like dreading like the rest of the years. But again, there are always going to be upsides to it. If I look back at this year, there's been so much to be grateful for. So much growth, so much knowledge, wisdom. I became even more like intuitive this year somehow. I was reading a lot more astrological charts. A lot was happening. There was a lot of personal growth, a lot of cool, very occulty things, if you ask me, like random like intuition hikes, and my higher self and energy being so alert and active, and I'm aware of like things happening while things are happening in my human self. So it's kind of like, it's pretty cool. It's not that only bad things will happen. It's not that, you know, you'll be miserable continuously. No, you'll find pockets of a lot of beautiful things. You'll find a lot of um, wholesome things that life will make way for. And yeah, it's not that you're going to be left to drown in the ocean. You're going to be thrown in the ocean, but you're also going to be thrown a lifeboat and maybe material to build a boat and sail, and you'll get to see the waves, you'll get to meet beautiful creatures, you'll get to see the sunrise and sunset, and I don't know, somehow it works. It's, you find an island, you learn how to cook coconut stuff. I don't know, you know where I'm going with this, but yeah, so that's the best way I can describe. So now, when Saturn moves from the house of your moon to the house after your moon, to the second house, that's when a lot of people say that everything you lost during these 5 years will start to settle down. It's called the setting period. So maybe things that you lost will come back, maybe, things will go full circle. Themes of the first 5 years can still be surfacing, but basically, the worst is said to be over. It depends again on personal planets. If you have like a malefic in that house, depends honestly. Um, but yeah, usually this phase is when you're restructuring and when you're rebuilding and you're getting back into of success, fruits of the struggle and turmoil and growth. So yeah, pretty much that's what happens. And then after it passes, you're a new person. I'm gonna cut short the video here because this has been a long enough video, and I made it to the end of the video without having to go. Yay, the phone has lasted. Anyway, thank you so much for watching this video. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, hit the bell icon, subscribe, in definitely not in that order, and click the post notification so we can stay connected. And I will see you guys next time. Namaste, bye.